Okay. So last time, just to do a recap of what all we have been doing thus far, we are still in the invocation phase. So the invocation phase is split into 3 or 4 parts. First is the Vandana of all the deities. Then in the mortal world, the Vandana of the Khalas and Sajjanas. So he begins with treating these as different groups. Then he goes on to say that they are born of the same breed or the same grouping. And then he goes on to say that these two are all residing within us. So we've covered this much so far. Today, he's going to go further and tell us that not only do gunas and doshas reside in the same person, they are also flexible. So a guna can be a dosha can be a guna. So he goes on now fine-tuning and subliming this in every Chaupai Doha set forward. So that's the territory we've covered so far. I think most of us now have a hang of how the cadence, how the rhythm moves. So maybe we can catch up a bit of speed today. Let's see. We need around 6 or 7 sessions till we know how the Manas is structured, how the Chaupai Dohas go. I think now we have a rough idea of how this whole thing is meterized, and it becomes much easier that way to access it. Sajali, this is especially for you. Last time, I think there was some error with the color coding. I've corrected that now. So the Jagat, Jeev, Ishwar, Maya, and Brahm are now depicted with the right colors. So you can use this. And I think there was also the reference of Lakshman, Sita, and Ram as Jeev, Maya, and Brahm. So this Chaupai is from the Rāmacaritamānasa. Aage Ramu Lakhanu bana piche, tapas besa birajat kache, ubhaya bija siya sohati kaise, Brahma Jiva bicha Maya jaise. So I think, I'm not sure who it was. Was it I think it was Preeti. You had mentioned about this.
Yeah, I had mentioned
Yeah.
it. I thought I had read it
Yeah.
in Adhyatma Ramayan, but you're right.
Yeah,
I think
yeah. In the Adhyatma Ramayana also there is a verse of that sort in which it talks of Sita and Ram as Brahm and Maya, but Lakshman is not mentioned in the same verse. Whereas in the Tulsi Manas, he talks of Ubhaya Bicha Siya Sohati kaise. Sohna is Shobha. So उन दोनों के बीच सीता जी ऐसी शोभा पा रही है मानो ब्रह्म और जीव के बीच माया, ब्रह्म जीव बिच Maya jaise. So that's the reference I thought I'll just bring up in continuation with the last session. Okay, so today now we begin with the next Doha Chaupai set. Just to remind everyone, when we talk of Chaupai of Doha 6, we mean all Chaupais that are before Doha number 6. I had already explained that last time. We had seen that the Santajanas then pick up the gunas and let go of the doshas, just as a swan is metaphorically or poetically said to distinguish between milk and water. So we had stopped over there. And now we are beginning with Chaupahi Doha block 7. असविवेक जब दे विधाता तब तजी दोष गुण ही मनुराता काल सुभाव कर्म बरियाई भले प्रकृति बस चुकई भलाई सो सुधारी हरिजन जिमिले ही दलि दुख दोष विमल जसु देहि खलौ करहि भल पाई सुसंगो मिटई न मलिन सुभाव अभंगो लखि सुबेस जग पंचक जेऊ बेस प्रताप पूजियहि तेऊ उघरहि अंत न होहि निबाहु काल नेमि जिमि रावण राहु किएहु कुबेसु साधु सनमानु जिमि जग जामवंत हनुमानु हानि कुसंग सुसंगति लाहू लोकहु वेद विदित सब काहू गगन चढ़ई रज पवन प्रसंगा की चही मिलई नीच जल संगा साधु असाधु सदन सुख सारी सुमिरहि राम देहि गनिगारी धूम कुसंगति कारिक होई, लिखिय पुराण मंजु मसी सोई। सोई जल अनल अनिल संघाता, होई जलद जग जीवन दाता। ग्रह भेषज जल पवन पट, पाई कुजोग सुजोग। होहि कुबस्तु सुबस्तु जग, लखहि सुलक्षण लोग। सम प्रकाश तम पाख दुहूं, नाम भेद विधि कीन्ह। ससि सोसक पोसक समुझी, जग जस अपजस दीन्ह। जड़ चेतन जग जीव जत, सकल राममय जानी। बंदऊं सबके पद कमल, सदा जोरि जुग पानी। देव तनुज नर नाग खग, प्रेत पितर गंधर्व। बंदऊं किन्नर रजनिचर, कृपा करहूं अब सर्व। So as you can see, this is a slightly longish Doha Chaupai block. He has included 4 Dohas in it. We'll come as to why he does that as we move ahead.
Santosh, the slide has not moved for me. Has it moved for
Yeah.
everybody else? We still
Okay.
Still
color.
seeing the
Extremely.
color.
Okay. Okay. You're still seeing the color coding slide?
Yeah, that's all that's visible.
Okay. Thanks, you mentioned that, otherwise I would have just gone on. This is what I wanted to. Yeah, okay. So can you see it now? Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we are now beginning with Doha Chaupai block 7. Asa vivek jab dei vidhata. So we have seen that the gunas and doshas are a combination in every person. And when we get that vivek, that sense of discretion, tabat aji dosa gunahi manurata. मन किसमें रत हो जाता है? दोष को छोड़ देने में और गुणों का चुनाव करने में, जैसे वो हंस है जो पानी और दूध में फर्क करता है. So just like a swan can differentiate between water and milk and pick up the milk and let go the water, similarly, someone who has this discretion is able to see what is right, what is wrong, and then can pick and choose what is appropriate for that moment in time, in space, in situation, in stage of life. So it might not again be the same. There is no standardization of guna. We also saw this, that it's not objective, it's subjective. So, one man's food is another man's poison. So what is right for someone's situation, station in life, for that space, for that time, for that period, depending on that, if you have discretion, you can choose what is right and wrong. Now, what's the canvas on where all of this is playing? There are 3 parameters. There's Kal, there's Subhav, and there's Karam. So he has introduced that nature and nurture unfold on the canvas of time. That's basically what Goswamiji is saying. What is Subhav? It is your nature. What has become of you based on what you have been doing thus far, based on what you came with, and based on the inculturation of things that have happened on you. That is your Subhav, Swabhav. Karam is your free will, what you can and cannot do. And where is both of this playing out? It is playing out on the canvas of time. So depending on time, on your nature and your nurture, your behavioral patterns will be formed. Bhaleu prakruti basa chukai bhalai. And whatever effort you might give, or however hard you may try, ultimately your nature will also play some role, at least, in defining or deciding how things shape up. So he's basically saying that everything is not free will, everything is not fate. It is an interplay of these two on the canvas of time. Now, if you look at the Bhagavad Gita, I think it's in chapter 3, where we have the verse, Sadrisham cheshtate swasya prakrutir jnanavanapi, prakrutim yanti bhutani nigrah king karishyati. So even a wise person acts according to their own nature. All living beings follow their natural tendencies. So what can mere repression do? So just repressing or suppressing your desires is not the solution. It is to understand that we are always this combination. And Tulsi Dasa kaha chidvilasa jaga bhujata bhujata bhuje. To keep on going on this path using that free will that we have. So he's basically saying that the canvas of time is where the nature and nurture unfolds, and we need to build in that discretion within us to decide what is right and what is wrong. So sudhari hari jana jimilehi dali dukha dosa bimala jasudehi. And if someone is so harijan is in the modern sense used very differently, but harijan is someone who is dear to the gods in this context, or someone whom the god love. So harijan can mean both people of God or people who love God. So just as people who love God or those who are loved by God, they pick up the good and let go of the bad. Similarly, those who have doshas in higher measure than the gunas, khalau karahi bhala payi susangu. Even they start behaving properly, even by a little touch of satsang. However, mitaina malina subhavu abhangu. The moment they are let off of the satsang, the moment this company of good people goes away, they fall back to their nature. So what is Goswamiji again saying over here? He is bringing up two paradigms. He's saying that there is Kal, Karma and Swabhav. There is Sajjan, Asajjan. There is Gun, Dosh. You have the free will to choose what you want and what you don't want to do, but your company also decides how you will interact. So it is not one fixed thing. It is not just nurture. It is not just nature. It is not just your free will. It is an interplay of all these parameters on the canvas of time that decide how things will shape up. So there is inbuilt uncertainty in life because of the combination of gunas and doshas that we are. So the only way to quieten the situation is satsang. Get in the company of satsang, and then things will start taking care of themselves automatically. Lakhi subesha jaga banchaka jev. But then he says, don't be too naive. He rings a warning bell, because satsang kare to kahan kare, kiske paas jaye. You know, we have all these gurus wearing lots of rings and gold clad, moving around in the richest of cars, etc. Are they really the people who are there who can run a satsang? So remember, this is not just a phenomenon that is hitting us in 2026. This is a problem that is time immemorial, and Goswamiji has also struggled with this and has said, Lakhi subesha jaga banchaka jev. There'll be people who will be clad very well like sadhus, not very well, but dressed up like sadhus. But wo thagenge aapko. They will cheat you. Wo aapki vanchana karenge. Besha pratapa poojiya hi teu. It is the nature of the world that just by looking at the external trappings, people bow down to you. Bhagwa dekh liya, to aap uske charanon mein lag gaye. So this is not a modern phenomenon. This is a phenomenon that is happening in the 16th century also. And Goswamiji is ringing a warning bell saying, aap satsang to karo, lekin satsang kiske saath kare na kare, uska bhi aap mein vivek hona chahiye. So lakhi subesha jaga banchaka jev. You'll meet many people who are dacoits, cheaters, just wearing clothes of a saint. Beware. Ugharahi antana hoi nibhau. They cannot fool you eternally. Ultimately, they will fall open. Ugharahi antana hoi nibhau. No one can fool anyone permanently. Their thagi will come to light. How? We have already seen this when we did the Rahu Ketu incidents. So all of you all have this canvas ready. There is no need to explain. You already know. Kala nemi Jimmy, Ravana Rahu. Just as Kala nemi, Ravan and Rahu, even though they were devilish, they were able to fool who all? Whom did Kala nemi fool? Hanumanji. Whom did Ravan fool? Sitaji, dressed up as a Brahmin. Kala nemi dressed up as someone who wanted to help Hanuman when he was going to fetch the Sanjeevan booty, Jadi booty. And Rahu, he dressed up as the gods and got that a little bit of ambrosia. But ultimately, Rahu was found out and killed. Ravan, of course, was killed. And Kalanemi was also taught a lesson by Hanumanji. So, ye jo aapko thag rahe hain, don't fall to the trappings of externalities. Start going below the skin and checking out for what a person is, because ultimately, everyone is a combination of these gunas and doshas. You need to make sure that the satsang you're doing is at least moving in the guna territory and not just an encapsulation of the doshas being served on a platter as gunas. So he is giving us a warning bell over here. Very, very important. Kiyehu kubeshu sadhu sanamanu. And then he goes on to say, externalities don't matter. Even if someone comes as, very poorly dressed or just very animalistic, like who? Like Jamavant and Hanuman. Jamavant was a bear and Hanuman was a monkey. So, kiyehu kubeshu sadhu sanamanu, even if they came across as a monkey and as a bear, ultimately, in the long run, on the canvas of time, when their what evolved? Subhau and Karam, when their inherent nature and their deeds started unfolding where? On the canvas of time. People understood what they were. So your externalities don't matter, just as they did not matter for Hanumanji and Jamavantji, even if they were externally like a bear and a monkey. Hani kusanga susangati lahu, lokahu beda bidita sabakahu. So, sorry, where did we go? Why is it moving like this? Yeah. So, अगर आपको कुसंग मिले तो आपकी हानि होगी, और अगर आपको सुसंग मिले तो lahu is लाभ, आपका लाभ होगा. This is very, very clearly documented both in the folklore as also in the Vedas. So here again, he's coming back to the importance of satsang, where everything is in dynamic equilibrium. All of us are in this continuous equilibrium or balancing act of gunas, doshas, nurture, nature on the canvas of time. We are not static. People have a very photographic memory. Kya re, wo aisa hai, wo waisa hai. But just as we say, this particular constellation is 1,000,000 light years away. When we see something through the telescope, we are seeing that which was 1,000,000 years ago. We don't even know whether that particular star exists now or not, because the light emanating from it is reaching us after 1,000,000 light years. So we are seeing a reality that we don't know exists or not. Similarly, we have a very photographic image of people, but these people in their dynamic equilibrium have moved on. So it is important to understand this shifting stage of life, that people change, we change, and our dynamics with them also change. And hence, it is very important to walk this razor's edge every day. There's no station in which you say, I have now arrived. You are continuously on the move, and the only way out is satsang. Okay. Then he gives us an example of how gunas and doshas themselves are very relative, or the same thing can be a guna or a dosha. So he gives the example of dust. Now, dust, there's a pun on the word dust. Dust is Raja, but Raja is also the middle of the three gunas. We have Sattva, Raja, and Tama. So he does that interplay, and let's see what he's doing now. So he says, Gagana chadhai raja pavana prasanga. Whenever wind blows, dust from the earth rises up. And when it falls down, it does a tilak, that's the implied meaning, on the people on whose heads it falls. So it gets a station of honor. Gagana chadhai raja pavana prasanga, kichahi milai nicha jalasanga. But if it falls down, it entraps itself in some, dirty water flowing on the street and then becomes chikhal, kich, dirt. So the same Raj, now is Raj good or bad? Is it a good quality or is it a bad quality? So this is the third paradigm that he introduces. So what are they? Gunas and doshas are a grouping of people. No, it's in the same person. Paradigm 2. Paradigm 3, the same thing can be a guna, the same thing can be a dosha depending on the situation and the company. So there is no absolute guna and dosh. Just like Raja, a speck of dust can rise with the wind and then can bear a forehead mark on someone. That very dust can fall into dirty water and can become dirt. साधु असाधु सदन सुख सारी, तोता मैना, सुख सारी तोता मैना. एक साधु और असाधु के घर तोता मैना रखे हैं, सुबी रही राम. साधु के घर का तोता मैना राम राम गाएंगे, और असाधु के घर की तोता मैना गारी देंगे. We had seen this example also earlier, when we had talked of the story of a parrot. It's the reference to that. So a tota मैना अच्छे है या बुरे हैं? A tota and मैना is saying Ram Ram, and the same tota मैना is giving gari. So what is Goswamiji saying here? Again, it is satsang. It is the company through which you can transform. A totamena can be transformed by a sadhu, or it can be taken down by a sadhu. What is he also saying over here? What's the subterranean message? Again, don't go by the externalities. You do not simply know that a person's actions don't necessarily mean that he's good or bad. It could be the situation in which he or she has fallen in that leads him to behave that way, either good or bad. And this dynamic equilibrium is happening every day, every night, every hour, every minute, every moment. We are not fixed. We are a dynamic equilibrium, and we need to be on our guard. And the medicament for that is satsang. Then he gives another example. So what's the pun on Raj? It's not just dust. Rajogun, the paradigm of activity that we all carry, can interact with sattva gun and take you higher, or it can interact with tamogun and pull you down. So these three, sattva, raja and tama, are always interacting in our body. You cannot be in a quasi-static state in which sattva, raja and tama are equally distributed. The very fact that we exist means they are out of equilibrium. Otherwise, we wouldn't exist. Because there is this panchikarana, the five elements have come together, sattva, raja and tama are proportioned in various measures, but they don't remain in the same measure throughout your life. Your free will acts and you can change that. Now, is all of this a modern spin? Is there any traditional reference? Of course there is. Daivam Chaivatra Panchamam, Bhagavad Gita. Fate only plays 1/5 of the role. There's Adhikaran, there's your body, there's Karta, the doer, there's the various tools that you use, Vividhascha Pruthak Cheshta, and there is your own effort. Along with these four parameters, there's a fifth, which is your fate, which is nothing but your nature, something that you are born with. And all these things interact with each other to then decide where you go. So you have as much free will as you have a baggage with you that can be worked on. That's what Goswamiji is saying with this example. He gives another example now to make this understandable further. Dhoom. Jab aap, now in today's day, we really have to think whether we need to start cooking back on wood. So wood fuel. If you are using wood fuel instead of LPG or whatever gas electric stuff that you're using, if you start using wood, usse dhua nikalta hai. And the dhua then starts attaching itself on the roof. So Kalidas has a very beautiful verse in which he says that what is the sign of a household that is alive? The sign is that its roof is blackened by the smoke of wood. Whereas today, if we, the moment we see something dark on the kitchen, we want to polish and shine it immediately because we no longer use wood, we use a different cooking material. So just as this smoke coming out from wood fire ultimately then mixes with specks of dust, anything that is around, and then we call it as karik. It's dirt, right? This smoke is then treated as dust and we have to remove it once a month or twice a month. You have to clean. Even today, if you have a chimney, you have to clean it. You have to mop it off. It's dust and dirt that is coming from that cooking smoke. However, the same smoke, if it is emanating from a lamp, if you apply nice ghee on a copper plate and hold it on top, it turns into soot that can be applied as kohl or kajal. It can also be collected in a box. You can dip a pen and write the Puranas from it. Now, is this dhuri, is it good or bad? So through the second example, he gives this interrelation of the qualities, that a particular quality is not absolutely good or absolutely bad. It can transform itself. We can transform ourselves with whatever limited means situations that we have. Just as smoke can be dirt, or it can transform itself into kajal or ink through which Puranas can be written. Likhiya Purana Manju Masi Soi. That soi, that very dho, it's the same thing. Soi, he makes it very clear. It's not a different thing. Soi. Wahi cheez hai. Jo manju, sundar, masi is syahi, ink. Jo sundar syahi ban sakti hai, jisse Puran likhe jate hai. It's the same thing that can turn to dust or ink. Then he goes on to another level and says that very smoke, when it rises, soi jala anala anila sanghata. Sanghat is union or combination. That very dust, when it rises and mixes with water, anal, fire, the sun extracting out, and anila, wind. Hoi jalada. Jalada is something that carries water. Jagat jivanadata. It showers down as rain. So when dust rises, dhuma jyoti salila maruta sannipatakva megha, Kalidas. So in the Meghaduta, there is a very nice verse of Kalidas in which he says that the cloud is made of these inanimate objects. Dhuma jyoti salila maruta sannipatakva megha. Sandeshartham patukarne. I have to carry the message. For that, I have to be an animate being. But this poor Yaksha, because he's so smitten with love, he doesn't understand this, that a message can only be carried by an animate being. And he, like a fool, is telling this cloud, go carry my message. So this phrase that Goswamiji is using over here, Dhuma kusangati karikha hoi, Soijala Anala Anila Sanghata, is directly from Kalidas. Dhuma Jyoti Salila Maruta Sannipatak Vamegha. Sandeshartham Kvapatu Karine Pranibhi Prapanya. So because that Yaksha over there is so smitten in love, he cannot differentiate between a cloud and a human being that can carry the message. That's the Sanskrit reference. He very, very smoothly brings it in over here, that very reference, that a cloud is made up of union with water, fire, and wind. And this dust, that smoke that rises up, then finally mixes and gets collected in a cloud. We just celebrated Holi right now, right? What is the mythological belief? That the smoke that rises up from that Holi then goes up and comes down on the earth a few months later as Varsha. The smoke is then going, mixing, the rays of the sun are extracting water, the sun itself, this combination of the three, then showers down upon the earth as rain. So that very smoke, when combined with other properties of the five elements, falls down as rain. So smoke can be dirt, it can be ink, it can be rain. Very different things. The base quality is the same. Now he gives another example. Graha bheshaja jala pavana pata pai kujoga sujoga. So he picks up basically five things. Graha, bheshaj, jala, pavana, and pata. Let's see what all is happening over here. What is graha? All the nakshatras. So we say कि अरे इसके पीछे शनि लगा है, इसके पीछे बृहस्पति अच्छा नहीं है. All these the Jyotishis that some of us might meet, they say कि आपके ग्रह अच्छे नहीं चल रहे. Does it mean all gloom and doom? कुछ तो then they give you some kind of solution for that कि ऐसे करो वैसे करो, whatever it is. But the same graha, Brihaspati, if it is in a particular constellation, वो आपके लिए बहुत अच्छा है. वो अगर बिगड़ गया तो बहुत बुरा है. So the graha is the same. It can be good and bad. Bheshaj. Now, bheshaj is medicine. Let's say you take loha bhasma. आपने लोह भस्म बना लिया. You are anemic, you have it. Your anemic nature is fixed. What if you mix that loha bhasma with imli या कोई खटास? You'll immediately start vomiting. That interaction of that medicine with curd or any kind of khatas that you mix it in, the body will start reacting and you will start vomiting it out. So the same medicament, when taken with the right mixture, can fix your anemic condition. But if it is mixed with something that it can't go with, it turns into poison. The element is the same. ग्रह वही है, आपके लिए अच्छा बुरा हो सकता है. औषध वही है, आपके लिए अमृतमय या मृत्युमय हो सकता है. जल. If the water is falling into the Ganga, we bathe in it. If it is falling into the gutter, we avoid it. Pavana. If the wind is blowing from the Malaya mountains, we get the smell of chandan. If it is blowing across a gutter, we try to stay away from the wind. The same wind is the same. It could blow over a Malaya mountain or it could blow over a gutter. Pata, cloth. If there is a cloth worn by a sadhu, we take it with great honor. But if the same cloth wraps a dead body, we burn it with the body. We don't keep it back. So the constellations, medicines, water, wind, and cloth, depending on the company they keep, kujog, kuyog ya sujog, ho hi kubastu, they become either a bad object or subastu, a good object Jaga lakhahi sulachana log. And everyone from all strata of society can figure this out. We have this innate sense of identifying good and bad. It is not a function of geography. It is not a function of upbringing. It is not a function of education. We have this innate sense, and everyone, each and every one can identify what is good and what is bad only if they reflect internally. To further strengthen this point, इसको बोलते हैं कि खुंटा बरकट करने. You put the nail in the wall. First, you hammer it second, and you make it stronger by hammering it a third time. So he's now hammering it a third time so that we all are clear with this idea. Saying एक मास है. Now this is the Hindu calendar. Don't confuse it with the Gregorian calendar. एक मास है. हमारे महीने कैसे है? चैत्र, वैशाख, ज्येष्ठ, आषाढ़, श्रावण, भाद्रपद, etc. Now, in Maharashtra, we have the month beginning on Amavasya. In the north, in some states, the month begins on Purnima. But anyhow, let's say that a month in the Hindu calendar is split into blocks of 2, Paksha, 15 days each. We all know that, right? From Amavasya to Purnima and from Purnima to Amavasya. So we have these block of 29 to 30 days. We don't have a February with 28 days. We don't have, July and August with 31 days. All days are equally having 30 days. And the leap year is adjusted by the Adhik Mas that comes after every 3 or 4 years, that extra month that comes. So it's a very different calculation in the Hindu calendar. So this is a reference to that. And it says that एक मास में 2 टुकड़े बनाए गए हैं. A month is split into 2 and they have equal moonlight. Sama prakasa tama. Prakas is light. Tama is darkness. A month is split into 2 halves of 15 days each. Both of them have equal light. In one, the moon waxes, and in the other, the moon wanes. But from waning to waxing, if you measure the light of every day, and from waning to waxing, if you measure the light of every day, the amount of light is the same in both pakshas. Very easy to understand, right? पूर्णिमा से अमावस्या तक 15 दिन उतना ही उजियारा आना है. अमावस्या से पूर्णिमा तक भी उतना ही उजियारा आना है. If you collect this light and measure it, it's going to be the same. लेकिन उनके नाम अलग अलग है. एक को बोलते हैं शुक्ल और दूसरे को बोलते हैं कृष्ण. क्यों? Because of gunas and doshas. If it is a waxing moon, it is considered fair and good, shukla paksha. If it is a waning moon, it is considered dark and krishna. So everything is same, the amount is same, but the sequencing also decides whether it is a guna or dosha. So the situation, the combination, and the sequencing of doing things decides whether something is a guna or a dosha, just as a month is split into 2 and called by fair and dark because in one the moon waxes and in the other it wanes. Nama bheda vidhikina. They are called differently. Sasi sosaka posaka samuji. Sasi posak or sosak. एक में शशि is the moon. शशि का शोषण हो रहा है. किसमें? कृष्ण पक्ष में. पूर्णिमा से अमावस्या तक वो जा रहा है. तो जिस पक्ष में चंद्रमा का शोषण हो रहा है, in that fortnight in which the moon is being tormented, it is called the dark phase, the Krishna paksha. और एक पक्ष में जहां पे चंद्रमा का पोषण हो रहा है, in that fortnight where the moon is nurtured, it is allowed to grow from Amavasya to Purnima, that is called the fair or Shukla Paksha. And hence the world also not just looks at a quality, but also looks at its sequencing to decide whether it is to be glorified or whether it is to be criticized. And then he says, Jada Chetana Jaga Jiva Jata Sakala Rama Maya Jagat. All these things are A, in the same person. B, they are dynamic. C, they are a function of nature and nurture playing on the canvas of time. D, they depend on how they interact depending on the company they keep. And E, their sequencing decides whether they are good or bad. And everything is a creation of the Almighty. So Jada Chetana, the inanimate and the animate objects, all the jivas, Sakala Rama Maya Jani, realize that they are pulsating with that divine bliss, good and bad. Bandau sabake kamala, bandau sabake pada kamala sada jori jogapa. I close both my hands and I sincerely bow down to everyone because they are a combination of these qualities and their interplay in the 5 gradations that we saw. There is no one exclusively good or exclusively bad. Over here, the Khala and Sajjan Vandana finishes. And now Goswamiji goes into what is called the dark night of the soul. Am I writing poetry? Will anyone read it? Will anyone even want to listen to what I'm saying? And this self-reflection is now the next block. So the Vandana of the gods, the Vandana of the Sajjanas, the Vandana of the Khalas, the combination, then the sublimation of these two, we saw all that. With this Doha, it ends. And now we move to the next block, which is self-doubt. So he begins that section of self-doubt by again bowing down to the Devas, the Asuras, men, the Nagaganas, Khaga, the birds, Preta, dead bodies, Pitara, what happens of us after death, the Gandharvas, heavenly bodies, Kinnara, again a group of heavenly bodies or someone who's not a man, Rajani Chara, Charana, Gochara, we saw Charana is to move, Rajani is the night, night moving beings, nocturnal beings, Krupa Karahu Abasarva, let all of them grace me. Grace me for what? Grace me so that I can write good poetry, because I'm not sure whether whatever activity I'm undertaking, will it lead me to success or not. So this is how he now enters into this territory of self-doubt after talking about the combination of gunas and doshas. We'll take a quick 2-minute break if there are any questions, any remarks, any comments, or if something is not clear. Yeah, Deepak.
So, excuse me. So usually, so it seems like here the third Doha, no, the fourth of the 4, is the beginning of the next Chopai set rather than the end of the previous Chopai set. Is that what's
That's
happening?
right. That's
Okay.
exactly what is happening. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, but that is a bit unusual compared to the format that we have followed, or he has
Yes.
followed so far.
So he's not consistent everywhere with the way this thing goes about.
Okay.
It keeps changing. So sometimes there's just one Doha. Sometimes there's like now we saw there are 4 Dohas. So he's now in that beginning mood in which he has gone through all the invocations.
Right.
And then he's saying, okay, I've started the journey. I've done all the Khala, Sajjan, Vandana, but is this making any sense? I'm starting to tell the Ramayana. Have I, chewed more than I can digest or more than I can bite? Have I taken a bite more than I can chew? And that self-doubt will now start coming. Of
Okay.
course, while I say this, it's also historically interesting to know that the Balkand was written later. He began with the Ayodhya Kand, then he started framing it in the Balkand. So parts of the Balkand, of course, were written, but he started polishing the whole thing in the end. So,
Okay.
but this
And-
self-doubt, I think, was always there as to whether I am doing this, but does it make sense? How will people? Because there was also a lot of criticism on Goswamiji that you cannot bring into the Awadhi what is available in the Sanskrit. You're diluting it. You're making it. There's a chance of it being interpreted wrongly. You are removing the interlocutor between the text and the people and giving it directly to the people in their language. And they are not capable of understanding it. All kinds of accusations were made against him, and he had to struggle a lot while he was doing this. So what we see is the manas, but what is behind that, this dark night of the soul, this struggle, why am I doing this? What will happen of it? Will I be able to complete it? Will people read it? Will people throw it away? We get into that territory now after the Khala Sajjan Vandana.
And so this idea that Balkand was written after, or at least a part of it was written after Ayodhya Kand, is that mentioned in Rāmacaritamānasa at some point, or is that
That's
like a
what the
historical?
current scholarship around the
I
manas
see.
says.
Okay.
Goswamiji never mentions this at all anywhere.
Okay.
I mean, we can say that he mentions it because he gives the tithi on which this whole text was completed. And that the Chopa is in the Balkand. So it obviously had to be written after the whole thing was done. Okay, anything else?
So just to what Deepak said, I think I'm seeing it a little, or I'm feeling it's a little different in the sense that so far there's always a red thread, or there's a thread running through. So every time Goswamiji is finishing something, one Chaupai Doha set, there is something which is there which links it to the next and builds on it. So to that extent, I saw it as, he's sort of preparing that little shift in our mind, that little doorway which he opens and then sets the stage for what's coming next. So I somehow, Deepak, interpreted it or saw it that way, for whatever it's worth. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Goswamiji always does that. I mean, there's always a connector. We might not be able to see it immediately, but there's no abrupt change. He smoothly takes you from one territory to another. And if some of you all are already experiencing this, it always happens that we lose track of what's going on. Because we have to keep on reminding ourselves, okay, we are in the Bāla, the Ramayana story has not yet started. This is the dramatis personae section. He's introducing all the characters. He's using that to bring out this interplay of gunas and doshas. But every Chaupai Doha block is an independent poetry in itself. So if you just read a Doha, just open any page of the Manas and read a Doha Chaupai block. It is an independent poem in itself. And all these Doha Chaupai blocks are then weaved into poetry. Which is why, especially as we now start moving ahead and he talks of all the iterative happenings of the Ramayana, and he talks of various yugas and kalpas, it is designed to confuse us, to remove the seriality of time, because we are trapped in the seriality of time. Iske pehle kuch hona hai, iske baad kuch hona hai, abhi kuch hona hai. And it is our mind's game that we have serialized time. Time for Goswamiji is fictional. Space is fictional. Vastu is fictional. What is true is Brahman. And to give that idea without getting into the Vedantic exposition, he keeps on confusing us, saying, okay, in which Kalpa is this happening? This story is of which Juga? This confusion will start coming as we move on. Right now, it's not so confusing. But especially before the Ramayana story begins, he completely confuses us and blows out the idea of the seriality of time, the existence of space, and the objective nature of Vastu. Just as he has relativized gunas and doshas, he also relativizes time, space, and matter. But that's for later. Okay, so going back over here onto our slide, what I wanted to show you all is what is basically the summum bonum of it. There is Guru, Govind, and Granth is what we saw. Then there is Sajjan, which is mapping to the Guru. There's Kripa, which is mapping to Govind. And the Grantha can be exposed only through Satsang. That's one block. Then there's Kala, Karma, and Swabha, which we saw today. On the canvas of time, your package and your free will is evolving. There's Khala and Sajjana, who are again within us. There's Gunas and Doshas, which are within us. And there is good company, which can help us go good or bad. So no man is an island in himself. You always need to move along with people, and you have the free will to choose with whom you are around with, to define how your journey is going to be guided. And the basis of all this is this very satsang. Because earlier we saw that Guru Krupa ke bina satsang hota nahi hai. Lekin Guru Krupa ka antim phal bhi satsang hi hai. So if you just begin with satsang using that free will that you have, you are already in the territory of what you would have achieved if you would have had Krupa. So that is how he's saying that don't stay fixated around one or two items of this. You might be limited because you don't have good company, grace might function on you. You might be in complete bad company, satsang might show up sometime. Because everything is dynamic, nothing is fixed. And whatever your station in life, there is no way that you will stay put in that, good or bad. And realizing that is on the one hand scary, but on the other hand, it is also our doorway to freedom. That we have the free will to shape our own lives. Nothing stays static. There's a beautiful image that captures all this without, getting into the deliberations of anything. So here you have, all our entrapments and pigeonholing that we do. I am born in this territory. I'm born in this family. I speak this language. I come from this land. I am of this gender. All of us are dead in the long run. And Shiva is weaving a garland of all these identities that we carry around ourselves. Skanda, his one son, is extremely vulnerable and is vying for milk from Parvati ji. On the other hand, the other face of Skanda is giving Shiva these dead heads to weave into. Just look at the poise and calm on their faces. I mean, just look at this. She's awestruck by her own Maya. We saw that she is Udbhavasthiti Samhara Karini. She is the cause of creation, sustenance, and destruction. And they are both in awe. They're just, I mean, just look at the calm, quiet, and peace of their faces while they are weaving a necklace of skeletons. There's a pyre burning below. There is the dog of Bhairava spewing blood and eating skeletons. And there's grace in the form of Ganesha putting it all and creating a garland for his father out of it. So the sheer transient nature of existence, we can talk about it for hours on end. But what this one image does for it is mind-boggling. It just depicts this in this beautiful picture. And that is what Goswamiji is also saying when he talks of the transient nature of things. Things keep changing. Nothing is static. Creation, sustenance, destruction is an ongoing game. We have to play our part in the game. At the same time, we also have the free will to change things. Okay, we now move on to the next Doha, Chaupai block. Let me share back the Manas again. Okay. आकर 4,84,000 जाति जीव जल थल नभबासी सिय राममय सब जग जानी करऊं प्रणाम जोरी जुग पानी जानी कृपा कर किंकर मोहू सब मिली करहु छाड़ी छल छोहू निज बुद्धि बल भरोस मोहि नाही ताते विनय करऊं सब पाही करन चहऊं रघुपति गुण गाहा लघुमति मोरि चरित अवगाहा सूझन एक अंग पाऊ मनमति रंक मनोरथ राऊ मति अति नीच ऊंची रुचि आछी चाहिए अमीय जग झुरई न छाछी छमि हहि सज्जन मोरि ढिठाई सुनि हहि बाल बचन मन लाई जौ बालक कह तो तली बाता सुनहि मुदित मन पितु अरु माता हसी हहि कूर कुटिल कुबिचारी जे पर दूषण भूषण धारी निज कबित के ही लागननी का सरस हो अथवा तिफिका जे पर भनिति सुनत हर साही ते बर पुरुष बहुत जग नाही जग बहु नर सर सरी सम भाई जे निज बाढ़ी बढ़ही जल पाई सज्जन सकृत सिंधु सम कोई देखी पूर विधु बाढ़ई जोई भाग छोट अभिलाषु बड़ करऊं एक विश्वास पै हहि सुख सुनी सुजन सब खल करि हहि उपहास. So here he now opens up his heart to us saying, "O listeners, you are now mine. We are all in this grouping in which it is okay for me to be vulnerable. I'm exposing myself because I know that I'm in the companies of Sajjan Ganas because we are all doing satsang." So his self-doubt, his, this dark night of the soul is now slowly going to come out. Let's see how he does that. Akar 4,84,000. Akar mane akar. 4 prakar ke akar hai. There are 4 kinds of beings, or they are born in 84 lakh varieties. What are these 4 kinds of beings? When we talk of creation, we say that it comes across in 4 different types. What are they? There is the Jarayuja, which is womb-born or placenta-born or viviparous. That's one type. Human beings, mammals. There's Andaja, egg-born or oviparous. those who are born out of an egg, mostly birds, reptiles, and fish. Then there's Svedaja, those born of moisture or sweat. So in summer, we start sweating and scratching, and suddenly, there's some insect, some crab, something showing up somewhere. We don't know where it came from. Nothing we know about it, but they exist. Or, there are dust mites. If you don't vacuum your sofas regularly, if you sit on them, it starts itching. Or if you go at someone's place and start getting itchy in your mind, you think, oh my God, what an unclean house. There are dust mites all over the place. You have to vacuum it. Where do they come from? They are Svedaja, or born out of moisture. In the traditional classification of things, in the modern world, we say they are sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction. So amoebas, etc. Of course, all these insects also there's sexual reproduction, but just to give you a paradigm. So there's Jarayuja, those born of placenta and womb. There's Andaja, those born of an egg. Svedaja, those born out of moisture or sweat. And Udbhija, those that sprout from the earth, all plants. So these are the four kinds. There's no other fifth kind that our tradition looks at. There's only womb-born, egg-born, moisture-born, and earth-born. There is no other kind. All the categories of beings are classified in these four groupings, and every such group has a multiple variety of yonis or forms. And how many are they? They are 84 lakhs. So this is the reference that Goswamiji is having when he says Ākarachari. So these four types of beings and their 84 lakh yonis is the variety that exists in this Brahmand. In one Brahmand, there are multiple such Brahmands with their own suns and moons and Rahus and Ketus and their ecosystems. And in the description of Ram, they say, Roma Roma me Brahmand hai. So on his every body hair, the end of which is a Brahmand. And how much body hair do we have? It's almost countless. That's the body of Ram. That description of the bodily form of Ram will come later. But just imagine how our tradition has imagined the universe. Every hair on the body is dangling with a Brahmand of Ram. That's the description of the body of Ram, which is to say that this universe, the expanse of it is immeasurable. There is no end to it. And in this little Brahmand that we have of our little solar system, of our little ecosystem that we have over here, there are 84 lakh varieties and 4 kinds of beings. Jati Jiva Jala Thala Nabhavasi. उसमें अनेक प्रकार के जाति है. So एक 84 लाख योनि में आप एक योनि लीजिए fish. That fish will have so many different varieties within it. Take a reptile. A reptile will have so many different varieties. Take a sprouting. You have moong, you have matki, you have chauli, you have so many varieties in sprouting beings, or you've got tulips, you've got rhizomes, not tulips, you've got tubes, you've got rhizomes, you've got roots, all kinds of varieties are there in each of these. Jeev kahan hai? Jal mein hai, thal mein hai, sthal, earth, and nabh mein hai, akash mein, birds, aquatic bodies, and bodies that stay on the earth. All this drama is what? Siya Ramamaya Sabha Jagajani. Realize that they are a manifestation of Sitaram. Karau Pranama Jori Jogapani. And hence I bow down to them. I'm not bowing down to them because I want to coexist with them. I'm not bowing down to them because I fear them. I'm not bowing down to them because I'm what we say tolerant. No. I am bowing down to them because that which ticks in me, I also see that same spark of divinity ticking from an amoeba to a whale. And hence I bow down to them. Siya Ramamaya Sabha Jagajani, Karau Pranama Jori Jugapani. मैं अपने हाथों का जुग, युगल, दोनों हाथों को साथ में लाके इस पूरे ब्रह्मांड को प्रणाम करता हूं. And now he goes into that self-doubt. Jani Krupakara, Kinkara Mohu. All of y'all, because y'all are a form of Sitaram, I know that you are going to shower grace. You are going to be a sea of grace because you're the form of Sitaram. You could be a Khala, you could be a Sajjana, you could be that Shukasari who's come in the company of an Asadhu and is giving me all kinds of galis. But for me, you are still showering grace because you are Sitaram. So he says, Jani Krupakara, and I am your servant. So please shower me with grace. Sabamili karahu chadi chala chohu. Chohu is sneha. Please shower me with your love. Don't have any kapat in your mind. Don't have any sly. Don't have any hypocrisy. Please shower me with all your love and compassion, because I know that all of you are forms of Sitaram. Nija buddhi bala bharosa mohi nahi. I have no guarantee of my own intelligence. What have I taken to do? Write the Ramayana. And my mati is so little. Tate binaya karau sab pahi. This is where that submission begins. That self-doubt starts arising. And hence I am bowing down and praying to you. I know that some of you all are khalas by the externalities, but have also explained how all this is in a dynamic equilibrium. So in the long run, everyone, from an amoeba to a whale, from the worst of men to the best of men, everyone is an ocean of compassion. I can't trust my own intelligence in this undertaking that I've decided to do, which is write the Ramayana. And hence I ask for your unquestioned grace. करना चाहूं रघुपति गुण गाहा. मैं करना क्या चाहता हूं? रघुपति का गुणगान. गाहा इस गान, गुण, गुणों का गान, रघुपति का तो मैं करना चाहता हूं. लघुमति मोरी चरित अवगाहा. मेरी मति जो है, my intelligence is limited. It's limited by the size of my brain, by the birth, by nature, by nurture. Whatever I do, it is a limited entity. It's not infinite. But the character of Ram is infinite. It is depthless. It has no depth. If I start measuring it with a dipstick, the stick will dissolve, but the depth will not be found. Uska measurement hi nahi hai. And with this kind of characterization that I have taken the vow to write the Ramayana. Oh my God, what territory am I even entering in? You know, that self-doubt has started now showing face. सूझन एकौ अंगौ पाऊ मनमति रंक मनोरथ राउ. मेरा मनोरथ क्या है? What is my aim? It is that of a rau, a king. और मेरी मति कैसी है? It is that of a pauper. In Marathi we have a saying, जात भडभुंजाची and मिजाज बादशाहाची. You know, your profession is that of someone who opens up popcorn. He fries popcorn in a kadhai and a kessel, and he wants to be a बादशाह. उसका तजुर्बा ऐसा है कि वो मानो बादशाह है, लेकिन वो करता क्या है दिन में? He is, you know, frying corn. जात भडभुंजाची मिजाज बादशाहाची. So similarly, manamati ranka, my intelligence is finite. It is a pauper, and my manorath, my ideation is that of a king. Sujhana ekau angau pau, and hence I don't have any recourse but to beg for compassion. Mati ati nicha unchi ruchi achi. My taste is very nice. You know, I want a beautiful garden, well kept. All the trees have to be trimmed, well watered, cypress trees, olive trees. I don't have a penny in my wallet. It is all man ke imle. You know, ivory castle is built in the mind. Mati ati nicha. My intelligence, I know, is very limited, is very lowly. Unchi, but my taste is very high. So he's also saying, hold on, my taste is very high. It's not as if my taste is bad, but my intelligence cannot fulfill what my tastes want me to fulfill. Chahiya amiya, main to amrut chahta hu. Jaga jurai na chachi. Chachi is chach. And I can't even prepare buttermilk. So वैसे दूध आना है वो भी गाय से आना है, मैं तो उसको बनाऊंगा नहीं. The milk has to come from a cow. I can't do anything about it. उसको मैं उबाल के उसका मक्खन निकालूंगा बाजू में. I'll turn it into curd. I'll remove the मक्खन. जो बचेगा वो छाछ. वो भी मुझसे नहीं हो पा रहा है. I can't even create that छाछ, and I'm aspiring for ambrosia. चाहिए अमिया जगत जुराई न छाछी. छमिहा ही सज्जन मोरी ढिठाई. I'm being bold here, but the sajjanas will definitely forgive me in spite of I being bold. Sunahi Bāla bachana manalai. Do you criticize a child when he starts saying things which don't make sense? So as parents shower love and compassion on their child, similarly you, O company of sajjanas, will forgive me crossing my limit and taking up an endeavor which I know I won't be able to fulfill, because you will treat me like a little boy. Jaun palaka kahat totally bata. Even when a little child says, देखो देखो मैंने ये देख लिया, you will say, अरे वाह अपना बच्चा कितना बोलने लगा है. You will not say कैसे तोतरी बातें कर रहा है. जो बालक कहत तो तरी बाता, जब एकाद बालक, whenever a little child is, saying things which don't make sense, सुनहि मुदित मनु पितु अरु माता. The parents, the mother and father, are so happy that the child has at least started wording something, even if he's not making any sense. Similarly, take me as your child and accept whatever little thing that I'm writing, because I'm singing the grace of Rama. Hasihahi kura kutila kubichari. But those whose thoughts are ill-willed, those who don't wish me well, those who are cruel, they will laugh at my work. Je para dushana bhushana dhari, who carry as diadems the problems or the shortcomings of others. जो दूसरों का दूषण है वो अपने ऊपर भूषण जैसा लगाते हैं. ऐसे कुबिचारी, कुटिल और क्रूर लोग भी दुनिया में हैं. वो मेरे पे हंसेंगे, वो उनका धर्म है, धर्म ही है. लेकिन I need their grace also because they are the form of Ram and Sita for me. So my mind is clean. Whatever your mind is your problem. So he's washing his hands off of the criticism that might come his way, saying, I have already asked for your grace and compassion. Nija ka bitta ke hi laganani ka. Then he goes on to say, I might think my own poetry is very beautiful. It is exceptional. It is second to none. Which singer doesn't like his own music? He thinks that he's the best of singers. वो उनके जैसा आलापी तो कोई और करता ही नहीं है. उनके जैसी कविता और कोई लिखता ही नहीं है. Which author, which poet does not feel that he's an author par excellence? Nija ka bitta ke hi laganani ka. Who will not like his or her own poetry? Everyone would. Sarasa ho athava atipika. It could be very good or it could be very, very mild and dilute. However it is your creation. Hence, every poet will like his or her own creation. Je para bhaniti sunata harasahi. However, there are very few people who are harasahi, who get happy by what? Para bhaniti. Bhaniti is vocalization. दूसरों का vocalization, दूसरों की कविता, कहानी, किताब सुन के, पढ़ के खुश होने वाले दुनिया में बहुत कम है. अपनी कविता, अपना गायन, अपनी लिखावट पे खुश तो हर एक होता है, भले वो अच्छा हो या बुरा हो. सरस हो अथवा अतिफिका. जे पर भनिति सुनत हरसाही. However, listening to someone else's creation and being happy is the rarest of rare quality. Te bara purusha bahuta jaga nahi. Such people are not so much in the earth. I know, but still I venture into this territory. Jaga bahu narasara sari samabhai. And then this is called an Arthantaranyas. He generalizes this. So he says, I know that my poem is going to be very dear to me because I'm the one who's written it. So obviously I'm going to like it. But there are very few people who are going to like it, which is okay. That's the rule of the world. And then he generalizes it. Jagabahu narasara sari samabhai. Most of the people. Now, see, in Kāṇḍa, we have seen that earlier the comparison that he took was from Dhumat Jyoti Salila Maruta Stanni Patakva Megha, when he talked of how that dhul turns into a cloud. That imagery came from Kāṇḍa. Over there, Kāṇḍa is comparing an inanimate object, saying a cloud, how can it carry a sandesh with an animate object? He reverses the comparison here. Is this a kataksha on Kāṇḍa? Is he saying that I've read Kāṇḍa and I know what he's done? I'm going to now reverse it. We don't know what was going on in the mind of Tulsidas ji, but I see that subtext over here. So he's now comparing animate objects with inanimate beings and says, Jagapahu narasara sari samanahi. The men of the world, most of them, bahut is jag mein bahut se nar sar. Sar is an arrow, but here a sar means a sarovar, a lake. Most of the men in the world are like a lake or a sari, a river. Sar is a lake, sari is a river. Samabhai, oh brother. So we, his listeners, are brothers. We are in his inner company because we have agreed to listen to him. So he's now making himself vulnerable before us. Oh brother, most of the world, the men of the world, are like ponds and rivers, lakes and rivers. Je nija baadhi badhi jalapai. They grow only when water falls into them. So if the sun is taking away their water from a lake or a river and pouring it somewhere else, they are not going to be very happy. वो सिकुड़ जाएंगे, बिल्कुल crush हो जाएंगे, right? A pond, when it loses its water, बहुत crush हो जाएगा. It will grow very thin. जे निज बाढ़ी, जब उनमें बाढ़ आती है, जब उनमें पानी गिरता है, बढ़ही जल पाई. They feel nice. They feel that they have now arrived. You know, a river is flowing, blowing out its banks. A lake is overflowing and spilling over water. That's when lakes and rivers achieve greatness. Sajjana Sakruta, people who are good and who come with good deeds, Sindhu Samakoi, are like the ocean. कुछ कुछ लोग समुद्र के जैसे होते हैं. देखी पूरा विधु बाढ़ई जोई. Vidhu is the moon. Pura is the full moon, the Purnima. It is only an ocean. And how many oceans are there? Sapta Sindhu. How many rivers are there? Almost infinite. So there are very few people like the ocean who grow, who come on a higher tide when they see someone that is a full moon growing and coming to fullness outside it. But a river would never do that. A river would be full of itself only when it is full of itself. An ocean will come to fullness when it sees the fullness of the moon. And you, which is we, all of us, O Sajjanas, I know that you are this ocean of compassion. And hence, when my poetry, good or bad, when it comes in full bloom, you will, the waters of your heart will start rising up in the rasa. And I'm sure you will drown yourself into it. भाग छोट अभिलाषु बड़ करऊं एक विश्वास पय हहि सुख सुनि सुजन सब खल करि हहि उपहास. I know that listening to all this, everyone who is anyhow vowing that I fail are going to give me a snigger. वो मेरा उपहास करेंगे. But those who are the Sajjanas will be happy saying, yes, he is trying hard, his effort is sincere, I wish him well. Bhaga chota, I know that my fate and whatever I bring along with me is very little, but my aspiration is very high. Hazaro ख्वाहिश है ऐसी कि हर ख्वाहिश पे दिल निकले. My aspirations are very high. But I have one trust and faith that the good amongst y'all will grace me. And I do know, I am aware that the bad amongst y'all will snigger at the endeavor that I am undertaking. This is that self-doubt that he's getting into and is relying on us to support him in this journey forward. Yeah, Sajali.
So I hear you say that it's a self-doubt and so on, but then I also hear you say that we don't know what Goswamiji was thinking. So what I'm feeling is that could it be that it's not actually his self-doubt? He's so learned. It's probably, I mean, just the way he's showing us a way to be, you know, like you said, Avadhi is to reach people. So it's reaching so many people. Kahin na kahin to kisi ko वो खुद अपने आप को देखेंगे उसमें. And so he's without, just like you said, na, he introduced without any context of the language of Sanskrit and Upanishad, he introduced it in Avadhi, the you know, the Jagat and Jagadisha and all. Yeah. So here also maybe he's just making us reflective, and in each of the dohas, I mean, we are all kinds of people, we have all this in us, so maybe it's just about holding that little mirror for us while the pretext is that, oh, this is my self-doubt, but I don't know, I just see it differently. Yeah. So I wonder what you have to say about that.
It's both at work, gun and dosh both. So he's genuinely humbling and saying, I have taken this endeavor, but you know, the kind of criticism I have to face, everything was in Sanskrit so far, I'm trying to bring this in Avadhi, will it work? At the same time, since you've raised this, let's move and see what Goswamiji is referring to when he takes us on this journey of self-doubt. So we saw that he's making an implicit reference to Kalidas ji in the Raghuvamsha, in the Meghaduta, when he's comparing this whole thing with clouds and things like that. Now, for the people who are not learned, he's saying, I know that you don't know all the grand poetry, and hence you will accept whatever I'm doing, just like a parent accepts the totally bata of his son. But agar aap mera bhala nahi chahte ho, so let me tell you that I am no Dumbo. I am as learned as you are. So that's the kataksha that he's throwing. So Sajali, since you asked, let's look at what Kalidas is doing in the Raghuvamsha. These are verses from the Raghuvamsha. Kalidas expresses that self-doubt also. But it's a very subjective territory now that we are entering. I feel that Kalidas is expressing this self-doubt to show his poetic genius. With Tulsidas, that self-doubt has an element of truth, but that's only my subjective view. You make your own judgment on it. So this is what Kalidas says in the opening verses of the Raghuvamsha, the story of Raghu, which is again the story of Rama. Not Rama, the clan of Rama. Kwasurya prabhavo vansha kvachalpa vishayamati titirshur dustaram moha dudupe nasmi sagaram. You know, what is this vansha of the Surya clan, Rama? And meri mati itni si hai. I am trying to cross an ocean with a little rowing boat. How will I even manage to do it? This is Kalidas. And Goswami ji, when he's referring to this self-doubt, is saying, you know what? I'm referring to what Kalidas ji has said. I know what all lies in our ancient tradition. So don't think that because I'm writing in Awadhi, I don't know this. Maybe he's also he's pointing to this. I don't know. We don't know. It's all conjecture. But we clearly see a harmony between what Kalidas has done in Raghuvamsha and what Goswami ji is doing in Rāmacaritamānasa. Then Kalidas says, Mandak kaviyasha prarthi gamisham yupahasyatam praunshulabhye phale lobhat udbahuriva vamanaha. As if a little dwarf of a man is raising his hand to grab fruit from a tree and is not able to grab it. I am this dwarf of a poet trying to grab the fruits of poetry. Mandak kaviyasha prarthi. मैं मंद हूं मति से, लेकिन मैं यश की प्रार्थना करता हूं. And I'll definitely become an object of laughter, just like a little dwarf of a man raises his hand to catch a fruit. Athava, but then he says there's a solution. Athava kruta vagdvare vanshasmin purva suribhihi manau vraja samutkirne sutrasye vamas, manau vajra samutkirne sutrasye vasti megatihi. But a way has been made for me. So he says that there is a mani, there is a pearl that is, or a gemstone that is as hard as a diamond, which is the Ram Katha. But the earlier Kathakars like Valmiki have already drilled a hole in it. And I'm going to take the thread of my poetry through that hole and take one bead of the Ram Katha after the other and weave it into a beautiful necklace. It is on the shoulders of giants that we stand. This is what Kalidas ji has already done in the Raghuvamsha. Is Goswami ji referring to that in that self-doubt and telling the learned people who are criticizing him, you know what, keep your criticism for yourself. Even I have read this. I'm having a larger project than what you have, which is to bring this to the larger audience. We don't know. But I feel that the tenor, the texture of that self-doubt that Goswami ji shows is more true than what I hear and see in Kalidas. But that's my subjective view. Okay, any other questions on this?
I was just thinking that, right in the beginning, he says, I'm doing it for Swanta Sukh.
Dohā, yeah.
So whether I know I'm not the most learned, etc. I mean, and I think for every sadhak, there is going to be a moment of great humility, and also you're in awe of your deity, awe of the preceding rishis. But at the same time, you can't help yourself because you just love God so much. And so therefore comes in the element I'm just thinking from my perspective that Swanta Sukh is an overpowering need to somehow connect yourself with the divine, whether it's through writing or through reading or through some sadhana, So perhaps that's what it is. So since we're conjecturing, I've just thought I'll talk about it.
That's exactly the inevitability of it. That there is no other way that he has to do it. And then when he writes it and locks it up, he's not being true to Siya Ramamaya Sabajagajani. So he has to share. He has to open it up. And when he opens it up, once it's published, it's out there for criticism.
Yeah.
And hence he's giving a rider saying, you know what, I have had my self-doubts, but for those of y'all who know Kalidas, he's also giving that implicit. So it's operating at multiple levels. But I think that element of self-doubt is still very much there.
Yeah.
But you're right, it's the inevitability of it. Yeah.
Santosh,
yeah.
I was just curious if that's how Valmiki Ramayana also starts, or it goes straight on into the Ramayana? Is this
Valmiki Ramayana, Valmiki never exhibits any self-doubt. It begins with the story
not
of the
doubt, the overall Vandana, the overall, the way
No. It begins with the story of the cranes, in which one crane is shot dead, and Valmiki goes into complete sorrow and bursts into a verse. And his student says, "This will be the beginning of poetry." So it begins with how poetry began. But the Vandana, etc., is not there in the Valmiki Ramayana. It directly begins with Dharmajnasya Kritajnasya. Who is that one person that follows dharma and is grateful? That's a question in the current moment. And then the answer to that is Ram, and that's how Valmiki Ramayana begins. Okay, so we have 10 more minutes. I think then we can move on and complete the next Doha Chopai block. खल परिहास हो ही हित मोरा, काक कहहि कल कंठ कठोरा, हंस ही बकदादुर चात कही, हंस ही मलिन खल हसहि मलिन खल बिमल बत कही, कवितर सिकन राम पद नेहु, तिन्ह कह सुखद हास रस एहु, भाषा भनिति भोरी मति मोरी, हसिबे जोग हसे नहीं खोरी, प्रभु पद प्रीति न सामुझिनी की, तिन्हि कथा सुनी लागहि फीकी, हरिहर पद रति मति न कुतर की, तिन्ह कहूँ मधुर कथा रघुबर की, राम भगति भूषित जिय जानी, सुनिहि सुजन सरहि सराहि सुबानी, कवि न होहु नहीं बचन प्रवीणु, सकल कला सब विद्याहीनु, आखर अर्थ अलंकृति नाना, छंद प्रबंध अनेक विधाना, भाव भेद रस भेद पारा, कवित दोष गुण विविध प्रकारा, कवित विवेक एक नहीं मोरे, सत्य कहूँ लिखी कागद कोरे, भनिति मोरी सब गुण रहित, विश्व विदित गुण एक, सो विचारी सुनि हहि सुमति, जिनके विमल विवेक, खल परिहास हो ही हित मोरा. So the khalas are definitely going to snigger and laugh at me, and they are not going to wish me well. Kāka kahi kala kantha kathora. And just as a koel would laugh at a crow, similarly these people will laugh at me, saying he's croaking like a crow. There's no beauty of poetry in there. Hansahi baka dadura chatakahi. Baka is a bagula. What was that? A crane, right? So similarly, just as a swan laughs at a crane, or a chataka bird, a partridge, at a mere frog, cracking his throat out. Hasahi malina khala bimala batakahi. He says, and now he's getting back at them, saying the khalas are going to laugh at me just like a Hausahi baka dadura chataka. Now we don't know which is which, because he's giving a twist here. Meri bimal वाणी को मलिन खल लोग हंसेंगे. So those who don't understand my bimal vani will laugh at me. Just as a crane laughs at a hansa or a dadur laughs at a chatak. It can be both ways. We don't know what's what. Because he's saying मेरी वाणी विमल है, but ये जो खल है उनको वो समझ में आने वाली नहीं है, इसलिए वो मेरे पे हंस पड़ेंगे. But that's okay. That's the nature of the world. सिय राममय सब जग जानी. मैं क्या करूं अब? ये लोग जो है जो मेरी कविता पे हंसेंगे, उनको तो दे आर कॉट इन द मटेरियल वर्ल्ड. आगे क्या करना है, यहां से वहां जाना है, इस पार्टी से उस पार्टी में जाना है, ये काम करना है, वो काम करना है. दे हैव नॉट गॉट द wherewithal or the ठहराव to get into the कथा. What can I do? कविता रसिकन राम पद ने हो. उनमें ना तो कविता के लिए रसिकत्व है. They are not learned people who want to enjoy good poetry, nor are they spiritually endowed people who have love, neha, sneha, in the feet of Ram. Tinha kaha sukhada hasa rasa ehu. Theek hai, but my poetry is also going to be useful for them because it will create laughter for them. They'll laugh at it. So it's not useless even for them For those who don't enjoy poetry or caught up in the material world and think all this is just mumbo jumbo, even for them, they'll have a good laugh. So it's going to be useful for them also. They'll have a good laugh with my creation, saying, "Ye kya chal raha hai? Ye bhi koi kavita hai." They'll have a good laugh. Bhasha bhaniti bhori mati mori, hasibe joga hase nahi khori. He says that Meri bhasha, bhaniti. Bhasha is basically the local dialect. So he says, I'm not talking in highbrow Sanskrit. मेरी जो बोली है, भनीति है, मेरा जो वोकलाइजेशन है, वो तो भाषा में है, अवधि में है. मेरी मति जो है वो बहुत सीधी सादी है. You know, my intellect is very straightforward. I'm not a very learned man. My language is not highbrow Sanskrit with, you know, the best of grammatical puns, etc. So if they are laughing at it, in a way they are right, because this is something to be laughed at in comparison with dense, complex, intellectual Sanskrit poetry. तो ठीक है, हंसने दो उनको, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है. प्रभुपद प्रीति न सामुझिनी की. They neither have love for the Lord's feet, nor are they having any understanding. Tinhahi katha suni lagahi phiki. It is for such people that any katha by anyone will always appear as a laughing matter and appear very, very colorless, phiki. Harihara padarati mati na kutaraki. Jo kutark nahi karte, those who are not hypocritic or, you know, say one thing and mean something else, those who have a clean mind. And they who love the feet of the Lord staying within them, those who have an open access to the divinity within them, for them, my katha, I am sure, will be madhur. So here he is relying on the grace of the God. He's saying that my language is avadhi. I'm not a great poet. My intellect is limited. But because the cause of my work is the glory of the Lord, people who are receptive to it will enjoy it. They will see the glory of it. Rama bhagati bhushita jiyajani sunihahi sujana sarahi subani. Because the sajjanas will know that this is not telling you how to make wealth. This is not telling you, the joys and the pleasures of life. This work is telling you how to turn the eye inward. This work is telling you how to do the bhakti of Ram. They will say it's okay. Whatever you are doing, we love it. Sunahi sujana, the sajjanas will definitely like what I'm doing, because the work, the aim of the work is something else, and they get that. They get that meta aim. They're not bothered about which language it is in, how am I putting it, etc. Kabhi na ho hu nahi bachana prabinu. I'm not a great poet. मेरे वचन जो है वो कोई बड़ी बड़ी metaphors, similes से बने हुए नहीं है. Remember that he gives the best of metaphors, the best of similes. Remember that Goswami ji, we are dealing with one of the greatest poets India has ever produced. And he's saying, I'm not a great poet. मेरा बचन कोई प्रवीण नहीं है. सकल कला सब विद्याहीनो. I lack any kind of a sense of art and any kind of knowledge, because the comparison by people criticizing him is with Sanskrit high poetry. So he's just giving a disclaimer clause. Akhara, aratha, alankruti nana, chanda prabandha aneka vidhana. Any kind of good artistic work has to have beautiful lettering, akshar, arath, usme arth garbhit hona chahiye. There has to be an embryo of meaning embedded in it, multiple, triple, 5 layers of meanings. It has to be alankaric. There has to be all kinds of embellishments, poetic embellishments in it. Usme chand hona chahiye. There has to be cadence. There has to be a change of meters. Prabandh hona chahiye. There has to be some text to it, which is out of cadence. And there have to be all kinds of poetic tropes to it. There has to be bhav, emotions, bhed, discretion, rasa, joy or mood or flavor, bheda apara. There are all kinds of distinctions in poetry. What are the different types of metaphors, similes, alliterations, onomatopoeia, everything. I have none of that. Kabita dosha guna bibidha prakara. मेरी जो कविता है वो बहुत दोषों से भरी हुई है. वो तो एक तो अवधि में लिखी हुई है, संस्कृत में नहीं है. So this is a kataksha. This is an ironical remark, remember, on people criticizing it. Saying मैं अवधि में भी ये कर सकता हूं जो आप संस्कृत के लिए बाधित रखते हो. So he's saying, I will bring that magic into Avadhi. Jnaneshwar says in Marathi, Amrutacha hi paisa singh. I will bring that Brahma Rasa, which is accessible to you all, O Pandits, in Sanskrit, in my own Marathi and give free access to you. So what Jnaneshwar is saying in the Jnaneshwari, Amrutacha hi paisa jinke, my Marathi that what I bring in the Jnaneshwari will win a wager even with ambrosia, says Jnaneshwar. Similarly, Tulsidas ji through a Kataksha is saying that all this high poetry in Sanskrit you think is not there in Avadhi, but I'm going to bring that right in the Avadhi for everyone. But here he's saying, Kabita dosha guna bibidha prakara. My poetry is full of errors. Kabita viveka eka nahi more. मेरे पास कविता बनाने के लिए एक भी चीज नहीं. I don't even have a single sense of discretion as to what good poetry is. सत्य कहूं, I'm telling you all the truth. लिखी कागद कोरे. I'm writing on blank pieces of paper. I am tabula rasa, which means that he is not having a preoccupied mind in worldly pleasures. He is clean. His mental slate is clean. It is brimming with Ram Bhakti, and whatever comes out of it is this Rutambhara Prajna, as they say. There is no other way. Whatever comes out of it is absolute ambrosia, because he begins with a tabula rasa saying, Satya kahun likhi kagad kore. I don't have any poetry, I don't have any learning, and my mind is very clean, my mind is very empty. But the advantage of that is it is filled with this love for God, and it is with that might that I now shower on you the katha of Ram. Dhaniti mori sab guna rahita. My language is devoid of any good qualities. Bisva bidita guna eka, but it has one quality that is known to everyone. No one can challenge me on that. You can criticize me for everything and anything, but not on this. What is that? So bichari sunihahi sumati. Those who have that discretion in their heads will know that I cannot be criticized on this one quality, and hence they will listen to me with great calm and poise. That quality, of course, is the love of the Lord. Jinhake bimala vivek. So those who have this vivek, this sense of discretion, will know what I'm aiming at, will, cast aside all the bad things that they might see in it, because the intention is pure and clear. And what is that gives him power? Ehi Maha Raghupati Nama Udara, the name of the Lord, which we will see in the next session. All right, so 2 minutes, we stop here. Any questions, remarks, comments? So this self-doubt, self-reflection, just see how he's taking us from one territory to another. We began with Vandana, then Khalas, Sajjanas. Now he's saying, I'm not capable of writing any poetry. It's just amazing. And he's doing it in sparkling Avadhi. It just flows. We don't even know how he's managing to do that. It's just so free-flowing, which is what I said in the first session, right? He embraces us like a mother. He just starts cleansing and washing us. So with his own self-doubt, he is, as it were, voicing our own self-doubt. What am I achieving by doing this? Why should I read it? There are so many other things in the world to do. Why, this internal struggle that we have, he's also voicing that in his own way in such beautiful poetry.
Santosh, a quick question here. How did you learn Avadhi? Your teacher, Guru, taught you this when you were learning the Manas?
Yeah, I mean, I picked it up so I began learning it when I was like in college from my guru in Pune. And he was he's 90 now, he lives in Delhi. He was a very great scholar of the Rāmacaritamānasa. And then when I started moving around the country in Banaras, Mathura, I met various people, Kathakars, and started picking it up from them. But the introduction was done by my teacher in Pune.
May I know his name, please?
Bhagwan Joshi.
Thank you. It was really beautiful.
Really, really beautiful, Santosh. What ideas. It's like it kind of like collapses vast things into little things, into human things, and really lovely.
Even he's able to lift the petty things into something, Brahmamaya.
I mean, this whole idea of smoke. And there he does this Kataksha on Kalidas later also. So I always think, because Kalidas says that a good house is marked by the markings of the smoke. He says, वो तो कारिक है. उसकी असली जादू तब है जब उसकी स्याही बन जाती है. So I always, because later on he says, Kalidas wrote a great work on the love of Shiva and Parvati called Kumar Sambhav, in which he has explicitly described the love making of Shivji and Parvati ji. The verses are very explicit there. And later in the marriage of Shiva and Parvati, he says, शिव जी कहा कि और पार्वती जी के प्यार की कहानी तो सबको पता है, मैं उसके बारे में कुछ नहीं बोलूंगा. Because in the poetic tradition, there's a vertical split. People say that Kalidas should not have done that. So for the Puritanicals, the favorite work of Kalidas is, of course, Raghuvamsha, which is beautiful, non-controversial. But Kumar Sambhav is tricky territory. So they say he shouldn't have written that. And it is that controversy that he refers to, saying, I, as Tulsidas, I'm not going to refer to the lovemaking of Shivji and Parvati ji at all. It's already known to everyone thanks to Kalidas. So there's always this to and fro with other texts. I think, so as they used to say that, editors in the 90s used to write their editorials for other editors to read. So it's almost as if it has these two layers, that Tulsidas ji is talking to scholars saying, you're criticizing me, but I know what you all have read. I have access to that, and I'm better than you all because I can make it accessible to others. And on the other hand, he's also talking to the last man on the street who knows nothing of this, and it is still so accessible.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
It's
this thing
almost
about the painting, I really like that you're getting those paintings in. But I just wanted to say, if I would have seen it by myself, I would have thought, oh my God, it's skulls.
What
And,
a ghastly painting.
and why is he smiling? So we need that context and interpretation also, which you see the painting in totally differently and really appreciate the artist's work. Yeah.
And it's such an amazing painting. I mean, to depict them weaving these skeletons and to show that calm and poise on their face, it's like almost schizophrenic. But then when you know that this is depicting the transient nature of things, that's the only way you could have done that, right, sir? All right. So
I just wanted to very quickly mention that you sent us two PDF files. One is the Hindi, not translation exactly, but and then the other one is English. And I noticed that the English one has some useful footnotes. So for what it's worth, for example, you talked about the 4 different forms of life, and they have some good explanation of all of that there.
So I have not really referred to the English one at all. But yeah, I mean, if you all want to refer to those footnotes, please, please go.
Yeah.
All right, let's close with our closing invocation then. Yatra yatra Raghunath Kirtanam Tatra Tatra Krutamastakāṇḍalim Vāshpavari Paripurna Lochanam Marutim Namatarakshasantakam.